You're listening to the Patriot Nation Podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation Podcast. As always, a proud member of the CLNS group of podcasts. Make sure you subscribe and download to all of those shows to get great Patriots content all week long. This show, of course, though, is the Patriot Nation Podcast. Your boy Pat Lane here with my guy Matt St. Jean for a special halftime broadcast. And we're going to watch some of the third quarter with you guys. So kind of like turns into like a live stream of the game, which is pretty cool. It should be fun.
Yeah, we'll have some fun with it. As much fun as you can have with the second half of the last preseason game with few notable players even in uniform.
Mother of God. This is like the first half was like painful. It was at times just painful to watch. And you just like Ben Wooldridge, not good. Not good. There were some. Yeah,
can I start with my leading takeaway from tonight's game? The quarterback that wasn't drafted this year is worse than the quarterback that went in the first round.
Wait a second.
I can say that definitively.
Are you sure?
As of August 21st, 2025, I can say that.
Yeah.
Who knows what happens in the coming weeks and months?
It's a hot take.
But as of today, Ben Wooldridge is worse than Jackson Dart.
I also laugh because people like really think that Wooldridge should be the quarterback over Josh Dobbs, and it's like, did you watch that? Like, you can't. After seeing that, you just can't possibly think that. I will say
neither of them are good, but there's orders of magnitude of difference between those two.
Yes, but Dobbs isn't quite as bad. So but yeah, there's some look. There's a lot of questions we can get to. I think first, one of the things I want to start with, and Francisco asked it, so I'm going to pull him up. What are we doing, Andy Borregales? What are we doing? 49-yard field goal, and you're missing wide right. And not just that. The biggest issue for me is not just. By the way, Walker, it's only halftime, so you still have time, Walker. I know it's we say post game show, but it's really just halftime show. But Borregales, like, first of all, he had 3 kickoffs for touchbacks, which I guess must be planned that they're doing that. I don't know why it's planned that they're doing that. Wouldn't you want to work on the kickoff more? I don't.
Maybe they're just testing their leg to say, can you do this? But I would assume at this point you should already know that. Like, you can figure that they want to camp. So.
I would also think every NFL kicker should be able to kick it in the end zone. I would think. You would hope, at least.
In the year 2025, yes. 20 years ago, no.
Right.
2025, yes.
Right. And so I don't understand that. That made no sense to me. But again, he's done it 3 times, and all of them have gone into the end zone. So maybe it's a planned thing. As far as the field goal kicking, the hard thing for me is that Borregales has been up and down. He's been inconsistent, and I think Parker Romo has been more consistent than Borregales has. And so when I look at that, I say, well, you kind of want the more consistent guy. The other issue is you've drafted 3 kickers in the last 5 years. And if Borregales doesn't make the team or isn't a good kicker, you will have whiffed on all 3 of them. And Chad Ryland is doing well in Arizona. Not amazingly well, but well in Arizona, right? Like reasonably well.
Well, I will say with this, John Parker Romo and Andy Borregales, to me, look like they belong on NFL rosters. This feels better than it has in the past.
Yes.
They've both kicked better than the guys they've had in camp lately. So like I feel better about where they're at. But it's never like if you draft a specialist, they should be making the roster.
Correct.
And that's the expectation. I mean, I think you might still give the edge to Borregales. I think he gets a little more wiggle room because he's younger and you just drafted him and you're hoping like he figures it out mid-season, especially this year. You're going to give him a little bit more leeway there. And if you let Romo go, you can find another one of a kicker like that, in theory, just picking a guy up off the street. They exist. Borregales is someone who you have under contract cheap for 4 years. So, like, I feel like you're going to lean towards keeping him if it's close at all. And I don't think he's going to lose the kicking job. But it's hard. I mean, you still don't feel great about whether he looks like an NFL kicker and he looks like a bottom 10 NFL kicker from what we've seen.
And what makes it more difficult for me to swallow is that 4 picks after Borregales was taken, Tyler Loop was taken by the Ravens, who has looked fantastic. To all reports, at least has looked fantastic in camp. And they're like ready to make him their number 1 kicker after Justin Tucker and blah, 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 and the whole thing. And so like the fact that you may have drafted the wrong kicker again, and it's just like, it's just so frustrating. And that's just like, come on.
This is why I was against the pick at the time, because the NFL in general wasn't good at identifying kickers. I pulled this up because I tweeted it out back in April. But of the kickers that were taken in the top 200 of the NFL draft since 2015, like half the guys taken didn't make it out of their second year with the team that drafted them.
Right.
And one of the most notable names on this list is Jake Elliott, who was drafted by the Bengals, cut at the end of camp, went to Philly, and became a great kicker. Which I think shows exactly why NFL teams are not good at this. This list does include Rohrwasser and Ryland as well. And now includes Andy Borregales. And there's like some decent kickers on this list, kickers for good teams. There's also kickers who've been absolutely atrocious. It is a 50-50 proposition if the guy gets halfway through his rookie contract with the team that drafted him. So, we'll see how the team feels about him after this. I expect them to give him a little bit more leeway. But, it's never good to use that much draft capital on that position when you have this many other needs. And the Patriots would be on this list. We're already on this list only
twice.
Cleveland. No, they're only on there with Cleveland and Cincinnati. Those are the only 2 other teams that have drafted 2 kickers in the top 200 since 2015. Now we're the only one that's drafted 3. And at least, the Bengals got Jake Elliott, who was good, not for them, but who's a good kicker, and McPherson, who's been good for them. And then the Browns got Austin Siebert, who's floated around the league, and Cade York, who is he still with the Browns? I think he's still
I don't think he is.
He might have gotten cut during his second season.
No, he might still be with the Browns.
He
only played for the Browns in 2022.
Okay, yeah, so he played 1 year.
He's bounced around.
Yeah, and this is, it's only a day 3 pick, but I think big picture, I'll segue. I'll set up a segue. You can take it or not, but the theme of this team has been a lot of whiffs on day 3 picks lately, and I think that was highlighted early in this game with City So.
Yep.
Having a real rough moment. And, you can say these are day 3 picks, but at a certain point, good teams will find ways to hit on those. And the Patriots have not. I mean, you got Booty and Pop Douglas. That's about it.
Right. And not just that, but, not only are you talking about City So, but the entire interior of the offensive line. The depth there has been awful. Cole Strange has been terrible. He's been awful tonight. And, he's been bad really throughout camp. And outside of Ben Brown as your, backup center and guard, I don't know. I honestly don't know who else you keep on the interior of the offensive line. Caden Wallace has been hurt the majority of camp. He's looked okay tonight. He's looked like fine tonight.
Yeah.
But outside of him, all the guys have looked bad. So it's we have Ben Brown, that's fine. But outside of Ben Brown, I don't want to keep any of these guys. I want to cut Strange, and I want to cut So, and I want to cut the 2 Robinsons, and I want to cut all of them. And again, maybe you keep Caden Wallace because he was third or fourth round pick last year, and so you figure, you know what, if he can do something, maybe we can hold on to him.
Yeah, just by process of elimination,
Right.
he ends up on the roster. Yeah.
You know, but you're still keeping only 5 interior guys, and I don't know how you justify doing more than that.
And I think a theme of this whole roster right now is I think we came in thinking there were a decent number of locks on the roster and spots to be won after that. And I don't feel like we've seen a lot of guys winning those jobs. Like Afton Chisholm, I think, is the notable one.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think DJ James is notable in that. And those are the two. That's it for depth performers who have looked better than expected. But not even good, just better than expectations. So, we look at cut down day in a couple days. And I do think, as a football fan, you usually approach that day with a little bit of anxiety because you have your favorite players and you're like, man, I don't want that guy to get cut. I want him to make the roster. I remember still finding out Gunnar Olszewski made the team in 2019. It's like, oh, that's fun. Like I'm rooting for him and he made it, and that's cool.
Right.
And I look at this group and I'm like, man, there's no one where I'm like, yeah, I really hope he makes this roster. Like, I don't know if you didn't make this roster this year, you had the opportunity. If you couldn't make it, it's kind of on you.
Right, 100%. And, there's a question like Jack was asking here, can you football player like Bourne for depth at the interior line? I just don't know who's going to want to take on Kendrick Bourne's contract, and maybe someone will, especially if you eat some of the money. You could just say, we're going to eat some of the money, and you could take them, but I just don't know why someone would want to do that. They might, but I don't know why. I think more likely it would be a guy like Kyle Duggar or Anthony Jennings or
Kyle Duggar. I think it might even be worse. He's looked better tonight, but based on his preseason tape, I think he might have the lowest preseason tape combined with contract. He might have the lowest value of all the possible guys they could trade.
Yeah, which is true. But I think somebody, and I'm trying to think who it was. Somebody had tweeted out, you should a team that has like a blitz heavy team, a team that is looking for a guy to play safety and run at the line, could be interested in a guy like Kyle Duggar. And I think that someone, he still does have some of that, and he's played okay tonight. I think that makes a lot of sense if that's something that he wants to do. I just don't know if he actually does want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if someone's going to find him and think, all right, he's, a good enough player for that.
Yeah. I will say also, while we're talking about, the defense and trade guys, one of the guys who I think we've looked at as a real potential trade candidate here is Anthony Jennings, someone who's he's a good role player. And he's an NFL player. He fits on a roster. He's a professional, not on an expensive contract, but not necessarily a scheme fit. So that's kind of an obvious trade candidate right there. But then you look at this. We've got Keon White. Is Keon White still in the game? He played late tonight. Is one of the few defensive guys who's played a while. He's been playing with the backups in camp the last week.
Yeah, the last week or so.
I don't know. I look at that and I'm like, man, if Keon White's having trouble holding on to a role here, where does Anthony Jennings end up in this? There's a world where the dust settles and it's like, man, Anthony Jennings might be one of our top 4 edge defenders. Which
he's not playing tonight. I haven't seen him out there at all tonight, so I think he may not have even played. Jennings.
Yeah. Well, that's a good. Or he also is with the 4th string guys. I'm not sure.
He's not out there right now. Ponder, who was just lined up offsides again. That's like the 4th time he's done it tonight. Ponder and Swinson are out there right now. Now maybe Jennings will play later, but I haven't seen him to this point. So that would be a good sign. If you're an Anthony Jennings fan like I am, him not playing is a great sign because that says we've seen enough from you. Like, we're good. We don't need to see you anymore.
Either that or we've seen enough to know that we can trade you and we don't want you to get hurt.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
I don't know what this means for someone like Braden Swinson, who I think all of us thought was a steal on draft night. And he has been kind of consistently like the 6th edge rusher on the depth chart. The group where Keon White has been disappointing, I think. We haven't seen him take the step that I think we were hoping he would take. And they've let Elijah Ponder, I think, started tonight. Truman Jones started week 1 of the preseason. I'm not we don't know anything here, but I do know that Braden Swinson had some red flags coming out about makeup, and the Patriots drafted him because they saw him at practice and were comfortable with him there.
Right.
And the fact that Vrabel's a culture guy, and you just drafted Swinson, and yet you've got UDFA is repping over him in games is like, all right, they're trying to send a message here that you need to take this more seriously. There's no reporting on this. This is pure speculation. But that's one of the questions that I think comes to mind when you see his usage.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair. And I do think he's had some pretty good reps. He especially had a good,
fun.
he had a really
He doesn't
nice.
look out of place.
No, he had a really nice run stuff last week. I guess didn't count because it was a holding penalty, but nevertheless, it was it was still a nice play by him. I'm not sure what they do. I'm assuming they're going to keep Swinson, but you're right. He looks pretty buried on the depth chart.
I think he's on the roster, but to me he looks like the kind of guy who's going to be a game day inactive his whole rookie season, and then we'll see next year what happens.
Yeah. By the way, Kyle Duggar just an absolute missile running down the field and just blew someone up. Yeah, I mean it was a 10-yard catch, but nevertheless, that.
Good for Duggar to bounce back a little tonight. Credit to him there. We'll see if this changes anything about how the team thinks about him, but he's played better.
Well, I also think, too, that it would be another one, too. It would be very easy for a guy like him who got paid a lot of money last year, who probably isn't happy with where he is right now and doesn't love all the speculation and all that crap swirling. He's out there playing his ass off. And he did the same thing last week. He played all game, the entire second half last week until the literally very end, playing hard. And you got to give the guy some credit. I mean, sure, obviously I'd like him to be playing better, but you can see he's out there working hard. And he doesn't necessarily have to do that. As a guy who's gotten paid quite a bit of money, he could just kind of sit there and say, yeah, whatever, dude, I'll just wait until someone picks me up or someone trades for me or something like that.
Side of this, the shot of Vrabel on the sidelines right now, he looks like watching this game is as painful for him as it is for everyone else.
Yeah. So it's just there's a lot of issues here. The edge thing is I don't love the edge. The edge stuff is weird. Again, Keon, we'll see what happens with Keon White and him, but it's I don't know. I honestly don't know. I will say we can kind of go shift to the wide receivers a little bit.
Yeah.
Javon Baker, you absolutely cannot under any circumstances put him out there at wide receiver. You just can't do it. He can't play. He cannot play at wide receiver.
Can't catch the football.
I think that's pretty obvious at this point and it's not even just catching the football. It's like he's committing penalties and he's holding guys and he's offsides and and it's just like he can't play. Meanwhile, he's played very well on special teams. He had a phenomenal. I mean, that's a veteran special teams maven play, right? That's a play that you would expect someone like Matthew Slater or Brandon Schooler to make, where the guy calls for a fair catch, the blocker doesn't realize it, and he just blocks the guy right into him. And it was a perfect play because he's blocking, so you can't get called for catch interference. He actually doesn't even touch the guy. It's just the blocker that touches him. The ball bounces off the blocker and the Patriots recover it. That's like a veteran move from a guy that, again, can't play offense. But if you're looking for a guy to play gunner on special teams, I think that this could be a situation where Javon Baker makes the team as a wide receiver, but he plays wide receiver like Matthew Slater played wide receiver, which is not at all.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it's weird because I think you go back 2 weeks, and the way that less than 2 weeks. The way that Baker played against the Commanders in that game in general, I thought,
Yeah.
all right, I thought he was ahead of Chisholm on the depth chart at that point and had put himself, not a roster lock, but on the inside track. Just don't mess it up, and he's on the roster. And he's done everything he possibly could at wide receiver to move himself off the roster since then.
Yeah.
So it's not great, and that's, it's, put it this way: if he doesn't make this roster, he has no one to blame but himself for it. I mean, he's had the opportunities, and he's just not making plays when he's playing wide receiver. If he makes it, hopefully he's able to put things together at receiver because he's clearly talented. It would be nice to see him do that. But I don't have any faith that he's making this roster. I suspect some of the mental errors and stuff on offense might be enough to just keep him off. But like we said, the bubble here is weak. There's not a single guy in this roster where I'm like, man, if they cut that guy, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Yeah,
just based on how they've played.
That's fair. Also, James with a great headline. Baker plays just like a Pats Hall of Famer. It's a great call. Also, Jack asked about how that wasn't pass catch interference or fair catch interference. I'm sorry. The biggest reason why it wasn't fair catch interference, and the reason why Slater has been called for it before, the majority of the contact was made by the blocker. So Baker doesn't actually really even make contact with the guy. It's really all the blocker that made the contact, and they were engaged. And so sometimes, even if you're engaged, unless you get physically pushed into the receiver, it's on you to get out of the way.
Yeah.
If the blocker is the one that makes contact, now maybe he made a little bit of contact at the end, but the blocker is the one that made the vast majority of the contact. And in that situation, you look at it and say, well, that can't be interference. And so anyways, that's the way I look at it, at least. I could be wrong. That's the way I look at it. Also, my dad just pointed out Jason McCourty, which I had forgotten this, and he's correct about this. Jason McCourty played deep into the fourth quarter of the last preseason game in his first season here. So doesn't always mean everything, but it could mean that doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't mean anything, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're out either, if you're doing that. So
while we're talking defense there, I think one guy who just by process of elimination may have played himself onto the roster here is Marty Mapu, who played early with the top unit that was out there for the defense. And I don't think looked out of place at linebacker. I thought his athleticism looked good. I thought that's the best we've seen him look at linebacker so far. And it wasn't anything exceptional. And this is simple stuff right now, but we're talking about playing your way onto a fourth linebacker spot. A guy who in theory has the athleticism to play special teams as well. If he's making this adjustment, I don't need to see much from him to put him on over Jelani Tavai, who is he health? I don't even know what his health status is right now, to be honest. Between the two of those, if one makes the roster, it might just come down to which guy's healthy on Tuesday when they have to submit the cuts.
Right.
But Mapu might end up. Then we got to do a roster projection this weekend. Mapu might end up making my 53 just kind of by default here because you need bodies at the position.
I mean, look at a certain point, right? You're going to have to. It's going to have to either be you keep 3 linebackers, which on my roster projections I've actually kept 3 linebackers because I just think their linebackers aren't good, and so why keep a guy like Marty Mapu, especially if you think that you can get him through waivers onto the practice squad? Now maybe you can't,
But also, if he gets claimed, are you?
Are you distraught? Right, you're not. So, I don't know. It's strange. It's a strange. It's a tough decision to make, I should say. And this is one of those things where you do the calculus of the bottom of the roster and you say, okay, well, who are the guys that are going to make the team on the bottom of the roster? Jeremiah Webb is a guy that has looked pretty good tonight. Caught a touchdown pass.
He's outplayed Javon Baker at wide
punt
receiver.
Return, significantly outplayed Javon Baker. But again, are you keeping 7 wide receivers? And is it realistic that you're going to play 7 wide receivers throughout the season? And so if you're keeping 7 wide receivers, that 7th, that's why I think it makes sense that 7th wide receiver would be Baker, because he's really a special teams guy, not really a receiver, which of course now we're talking about Caden Wallace, and Caden Wallace just got absolutely just smoked.
You are a little bit ahead of me then. I will say Webb is a guy to me who's very intriguing as a practice squad guy. And I don't think you would have to push me very hard to say I'd keep Jeremiah Webb over Javon Baker right now.
Right.
Webb looks like a really smooth athlete out there. He accelerates well. In the open field, he looks great. So maybe they decide to keep him in the building and see what he can turn into for you.
Right.
Webb and Baker play different roles on special teams. Baker is being used as a gunner. Baker's off ball, and Webb is someone on the ball. That's your difference there on special teams. So it's different roles there, even though they both impact the game there. And Webb kind of has more of an uphill climb there, I think, just because the team's got Trevion Henderson and Marcus Jones and Efton Chisholm right now, who are all pretty dynamic in ways in the return game. Throw Antonio Gibson in there too, where it's all right, he's not it's a hard path for him to make it just in that role. He'd have to be something really special, which he hasn't been.
Yeah, and I agree. And you have to assume that those 3 or 4 guys are almost definitely going to make the roster. Chisholm, I would assume, is on the roster at this point, and so
he's in bubble wrap right now.
Yeah, so you have to assume that those guys are going to be on the roster, and so then are you keeping a guy that, he might give you something in the return game, but realistically, okay, we have 3 guys ahead of him, so what difference does it make, And so that's the issue there. So we'll see, but I don't know. I also think too the end of the corner depth chart. Well, actually, you know what? Let's do a break first, and then we can talk about. I think the end of the corner depth chart I like to talk about, and then we'll hit a few other points as well. And look, they're taking a commercial break. We'll take a commercial break. All right, so this break, of course, obviously, is for Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Now, remember here. All you're doing, you make it super easy. You're just picking 2 to 6 players, right? More than 2 players, right? Just pick more or less on more than 2 players. And you can win up to 2,000 times your cash back. Okay? Remember, preseason football is going on. Preseason football is almost done. But preseason football is going on. College football is about to be going on. Women's basketball is going on. Baseball is still going on as the Red Sox are battling the Yankees in Yankee Stadium right now. And so you can, again, mix and match your lineup. Put a few women's basketball people in there. Put a football guy in there. Put a pro football guy in there. Put a college football guy in there. Do all sorts of different things. Of course, esports is always going on as well. All right? So get in on the action today, right? Remember, they do also – PrizePicks does also make for quick and easy withdrawals. They do Venmo, they do Apple Pay, they do MasterCard, they do a ton more as well. Okay, so you can get money in and out really easily. What you're going to do, download that PrizePicks, put in the promo code CLNS. When you play your first $5 lineup, you get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app PrizePicks, put in the promo code CLNS, and you get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Okay. Let's just take a look at.
I'm gonna real quick here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Other Boston, New York update for those who are curious.
Yes.
Red Sox currently have 4-3, and then immediately the Yankees got to run around third. No, 2 outs. So.
Okay.
Neither team wants to win this baseball game, just like neither team wants to win this football game.
Yeah. At least the football game doesn't matter, is what I'll say. The depth at corner, the corner depth is just barren. I think we've seen Kobe Minor has looked really not good tonight.
And I think he's probably been. He might be the best of the bunch of the guys after the top 5 too,
which is kind of crazy when you think of that, right? Jordan Polk has committed 2 penalties on 4th down that have both should have resulted in turnover on downs, or actually one of them should have resulted in turnover. The other one should have been turnover on downs. Both called back because of penalties on Jordan Polk. That was 35 is not Crossley. Yeah, Battle has been awful too. Like, it's just bad. It's just been bad by everyone. And so I just don't know who you're going to keep or if you're going to keep someone. I thought that maybe a guy that I thought maybe they might keep would be Brandon Crossley, because, again, Crossley's a guy that can play a lot of special teams. He's not even playing until the 4th quarter. Like, he's buried in the depth chart. So, maybe Kobe Minor is a guy. We just saw him out there on the gunner on punt teams. He's like a backup gunner. But then again, he got down there and got juked out of his shoes. So, who knows? But maybe he's a guy that makes the 53. But more than likely, I would think that all those guys get cut and end up on the practice squad. Like, I don't see any value in keeping any of them.
From, pretty much that first game against the Commanders, it seemed to be pretty much locked in stone that this team's going to carry 5 corners. Like, there's a pretty stark divide here once you get down that depth chart. And they're going to be varied enough at defensive back anyway that you'd rather keep the safeties, the depth there. Like, if you're picking between 5 corners, 6 safeties, or 6 corners, 5 safeties, you're taking the former there 10 times out of 10 with how the guys have played.
100%.
And maybe they just keep 5 and 5. We'll see where they think the strength is in this roster. Maybe they just cut a bunch of these safeties and you end up keeping more edge defenders if they just like a lot of the depth they have there, or if they like Javon Baker as a special teamer over one of the depth safeties there. If it comes down to like Javon Baker versus Marcus Epps for the 53rd spot,
right,
something like that. But I mean, yeah, none of these battles move me in any way. There's battles between a lot of players who I don't think are going to be part of the 2026 picture.
Yeah, I would completely agree with you. Also, this is like, it's just kind of funny, but as I'm just watching the ref make a call here, I know not Marcus Epps, but Joe Pettis just got called for a personal foul penalty after the play, but there was also an ineligible man downfield, and that was a late hit out of bounds. I don't believe that's a dead ball penalty. Is that a dead ball penalty?
That's a great question.
Because they just gave the Giants the 15 yards and a first down. So it
might be definitionally a dead ball penalty just because it happens after the play ends.
Yeah, unless they just redid the play and it was already first down. But it sounded, and again, I'm not watching with the sound on because we're doing this, but
late out of bounds. Look, according to Football Zebras, is a dead ball penalty.
Okay, and that's fine. But why is the ineligible downfield? Why would that be then declined? Is it by definition that gets declined because it's a penalty after the play? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that I don't know. I'll have to dig into the rule book here, see if anyone writes anything. There was a weird spot of a ball after a penalty earlier, and someone had Doug Kai had retweeted what seemed to be a pretty thorough explanation of why they did that I read like 4 times and still didn't quite understand exactly what they were saying.
No, Doug Kai tweeted out that they ruled that the Giants recovered the fumble, which they did not.
No, there's something else involved there that he retweeted, someone explaining, and it just like went completely over my head.
Oh.
Yeah, Andy Ellis had replied to him with an explanation of this, citing the NFL rulebook about some concept called the basic spot. I don't understand it. I got to read more on this. This is new to me, and it sounds like it's somewhat new to the NFL. Yeah. So That's all I got on that.
So negating the turnover.
Ooh, they're showing.
Okay.
I'm a little delayed here, but they were just showing some clips from earlier with the Giants' offensive line. But you could also see. Ooh, nice hit from someone. You could see Marty Mapu did a really good job of shedding a block from a linebacker. He didn't make a play just because the ball was waiting for him. But yeah, giving him a shout out. I think Mapu is. I think he might make this roster.
He might. He might. By the
Yeah.
way, Deshaun was saying, that Jalen Hyatt.
Good tackle, Del Pettis.
Yep. Which is usually the case. Del Pettis is a solid
He
tackler.
wraps up and finishes through contact too.
Oh my lord. Yeah, Marcus Epps, see you later, dude. We can just cut Marcus Epps right now. I'm also
okay. I wonder what I'm about to see then. Yeah, Walker Phillips in the chat asking if there's any injury updates. There's not a lot, except that we know Jalen Polk is going on injured reserve. This is probably the time to talk about that. This is because he came into camp with an injured shoulder, and it appears to have re-injured it, right?
Yes. Yeah, he re-injured it on the what's it called, the reverse. It looked like in that first Washington game. I don't know if you saw the angle that Pettis took on that touchdown, but holy Christmas, dude!
A lot of bad on that play.
It was real bad.
And you see plays like that touchdown that you just allowed, and it's like, man, if every single player on the field for that got cut, I don't think I would have any problem with that just on the surface.
It was just bad, just really bad.
Was Duggar out there for that?
Duggar was out there for that. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Duggar and Epps at safety.
And again, Epps is on the other side of the play. I get that, but like, what are you doing with that angle? Like, that's just like, I don't know.
Yeah. Walker asking, should Polk make the team? I'm assuming that means Jalen Polk. He's on injured reserve, so they can reactivate him this year, but the shoulder surgery means he's done. He won't come back this year. So I think that is we'll try it again next camp and see if there's anything left in the tank.
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't gain anything by cutting him because his contract's guaranteed anyways. So it doesn't really make a difference whether you cut him or not. And so you might as well keep him around for another year and, kind of just stash him on the shelf and let him go from there. And then, you kind of, like you say, try it again next year. Maybe he comes back looking better and he's actually healthy to start the year. And if he's healthy to start the year, then maybe he has a chance at, being there at the off-season conditioning program and, getting ready and so on and so forth. And I don't have any faith that he's going to actually do anything next year, but at least maybe, at this point, it doesn't make a difference. Like, you might as well just keep him one more year and then you can always cut him next year if you want,
Yeah. I'm going to change the subject real quick just after that screen pass. I noticed Taylor Kyles and Evan Lazar are both talking about how screens have been an issue for the Patriots so far this preseason. I'm going to take a wider lens approach to this real quick. We have talked a lot about the positives of the Mike Vrabel style of defense, enabling defensive linemen in particular to penetrate more often, allowing them to play with more aggressiveness. You saw where this can bite you. First possession of this game, where Jackson Dart is able to scramble, move up in the pocket, and hit a wide open receiver for a huge play on that, the big play on that touchdown drive. And if you penetrate and you're able to get to the quarterback, that's awesome. The problem is that if you penetrate and miss, there's no one, and the quarterback has, a ton of time to create something, or, if you get upfield behind a play, you're done. That's it.
Correct.
So these are the trade-offs you have. With the Belichick style of things, the trade-off was you're not going to have a pass rush that gets the quarterback as quickly, but you try to collapse and confuse and create sacks that way. And the Vrabel approach is basically you're going to give up some of these splash plays, and you're just hoping that over the course of the season, you are able to create more splash plays on defense than you allow. Actually, the flip side of that is that sometimes you're going to give up plays that look horrendous to players who are not very good. And these are the trade-offs of these types of schemes. Which one is more effective really comes down to how good the players are at executing it. And also like Harold Landry being out there, he's a guy who can contain a little bit better and not give up some of this stuff. That's one of the reasons you bring him in.
That's also true. That's a good point. And I just think too, like the linebackers will be better. We'll be able to read that stuff better. So you're hoping that people will read, but my goodness, it hasn't looked good. And yeah, it hasn't looked good. So it's Danny's saying, can we turn Chew Clock on like it's Madden? I mean, it's so true. Just like, boop, like hit the. You know what? My favorite feature of it's my favorite feature of college football, and I don't have college football 26. My favorite feature of college football 25 is the fact that if you take a knee with 2 minutes left, and they have no timeouts, that the game just ends. And I'm like, thank the Lord, I don't have to just sit there waiting for absolutely no reason. Oh my God, Mother of God!
I think when it comes to like quality of life features in football video games, that's one of the best additions they've had.
Absolutely.
Recently, I still think they can take it a step further and make it more immersive in some ways, but big improvement. They have a version of it in Madden now. It's not as effective. No, I have not seen the 2nd and 10 play here yet, so I'm very excited to.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there we go. Ben Woldridge Mania.
And I'll tell you,
he can't stop throwing touchdowns.
That one to me isn't on Woldridge. That one is just as much on Jaheim Bell as it is on Woldridge. He waited so long for Jaheim Bell to turn around. He took his time getting there, and then I think he turned the wrong way. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, that's a stick route. He only can turn over that one shoulder.
So because he turns the outside, and Woldridge throws it inside, right? Did Woldridge throw it inside?
Throws that to the wrong spot. Yeah, that's. I mean, at least on
he read it. Okay, but I see what he was doing there. He read it that the corner is outside, so he's throwing inside. But that route is going outside. He has to throw it outside.
In that route is, if that's a stick route, which I think it was on the first viewing, it's either you turn to the outside and sit, or you turn to the outside and cut to the outside. Right. Either way, the ball has to be on the outside shoulder. Yeah. No, that's 100% on Woldridge. Yeah. That ball has to be on the outside shoulder of Jaheim Bell. There's no other spot you can throw that route. So if you have to try to throw that to the back shoulder, it's not open. You got to throw it to someone else.
Right. Why isn't Josh Dobbs playing? That's what I don't understand. What are we doing with this kid?
Because there's no reason to play Dobbs. You don't want him to get hurt.
That's fair.
It's preseason.
By the way, I think the Patriots and Giants talked about something, because all the kickoffs outside of one, Javon Baker had a return. Outside of one, all the kickoffs have been in the end zone. So I wonder if they made a decision before the game to basically say let's just kick the ball out of bounds and not worry about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just don't want to get hurt. Well, I'm sure there's a certain aspect of maybe gamesmanship of just being like, hey, we don't want, like, for the Patriots, right? We don't want people to know how we're going to cover this stuff. We don't want anyone to get even a tell on, do we kick it left? Do we kick it middle? Do we kick it right? Like, you just don't want tells on any of that stuff. So then the teams have nothing to scout off of to start the season.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. This is just ugly. I mean, the problem is that you just can't.
Vrabel does not look happy.
I mean, would you be? No. This is one of those situations where you start to wonder about, okay, Woldridge is the guy. Like, does Woldridge even make the practice squad at this point? Like, and I guess maybe he's done enough, I guess, in camp that he can at least be the what's it called, the scout team quarterback. But you see what happens when he's out in the field. He can't play. You can't put him out there.
And he's just not very accurate.
Right.
He stares things down. He's late. There's not. Maybe he improves, but and maybe put him on the practice squad and you just take it week to week. I mean, we're talking right now about a third string quarterback who's going to be, whoever fills that role is going to be on the practice squad. I'm just not concerned about that long term.
By the way, he's already 3 years older than Drake May, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But
Jack has a question in the chat. Why do the Pats always play the Giants every preseason? As far as I know, the answer to this is pretty simple. Giants are in the NFC, so you don't really play them that often for real games, and they're close. So the travel is nice and easy for you. I think
that would
it's
be my
just
assumption.
that simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But they just
I think
played
the
the-
two organizations have good relationships with one another.
Yeah.
Too, like the ownership. Yeah.
Did they play the Giants in the preseason last year? Because I know they ended with the Commanders last year in the preseason.
I don't remember, but they've
Um,
played the Giants almost every preseason.
Yeah, but again, I know
I
that
think
they
they played them, but
finished.
not the last week last year. But I could be wrong. No, they didn't play him last
They didn't
week.
play him at all.
That might be the only time in
Interesting.
my lifetime they haven't played the Giants in the preseason.
Yeah, it's strange. They played two NFC East teams though, which is strange, but not the Giants. So, but yeah, I don't know. So, and I think that's I think that makes the most sense. And again, I could be wrong. You could be wrong. Who knows? But I felt the same way. They're in the NFC. Makes sense to play them in the NFC, and they're close. So they're not a bus ride away, obviously, because you're going to fly. But they're like a few hours away by car. It's like you might as well. It's close. So
this might be a Belichick thing. In '99, they didn't play the Giants. They also didn't play the Giants in 2000 in the preseason. Okay. So when is the first? I don't know what the first is. Okay, so they did it in 2001. I wonder if that's what they've also played Carolina a ton in the preseason, which again makes sense. East Coast team NFC.
Right.
It usually ends up being East Coast NFC in general.
Which makes sense.
They played it in the opener in 01 and 02 in the preseason. Man, this must be a riveting listening experience right now.
Matt's on one of his tangents looking things up. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
did not play him in 04. Okay, so there have been more gaps in this than I thought.
Yeah. We're not doing this. We're not going through from 2000 to 2024.
I will, and I'll let you know if there's anything.
Just don't share it with anyone. Maybe you can write it up as a little article or something like that. But I don't know. Do you have anything else to talk about? Is there anything else about this game that you think was notable?
There is not a lot. I mean, because I guess we could talk about who didn't play. That might be notable here. Like we look at who didn't even dress for this game. I don't think there's any surprises on that.
No.
But I do think that's a pretty good way to put together who we know is a roster lock at this point.
Yeah.
I can't find the list.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get a full list. I didn't think.
I think Doug Hyde had it. I'm checking right now.
It looks like a lot of the skill players, like none of them played.
No. Okay, here we go. Here's the list of guys who did not dress tonight. Christian Gonzalez, Jalen Polk, who's going injured reserve, Landry, Pop Douglas, Tonio Gibson, Carlton Davis, Stephon Diggs, Booty, May, Hollins, Spillane, Kyle Williams, Jalen Hawkins, Marcus Jones, Terrell Jennings, who's hurt, Trevion Henderson, Anthony Jennings. Okay, Anthony Jennings did not dress, and he's apparently injured. Ramondre Stevenson, Caleb Chasen, Tavai is not dressed. He's injured. Christian Ellis, Garrett Bradbury, Will Campbell, Michael Wenu, Morgan Moses, Austin Hooper, Bourne, who's injured, Henry Chisholm, who's injured, Barmore, Tonga, Williams. I don't think there's a single surprise on that list.
No.
I mean, maybe the only somewhat notable ones, if you were in the group that did not want Mac Hollins to make this roster, too bad. I think he's on the roster. And if you did not want Garrett Bradbury to be on this roster, he's on the roster. Those are the only somewhat controversial names, I guess. Booty. I think we knew he was going to make this roster.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Garrett Bradbury is one of your 5 best offensive linemen. It's just like I don't. That's just the truth. He's one of the 5 best offensive linemen you have. Like, sorry. And you may not like that. You may not like him as a player, and that's okay. I don't think he's a very good player. But you don't have anyone else. You just don't. Your depth at offensive line is not good. And so, I think Marcus Bryant, I feel comfortable if one of our if Morgan Moses were to go down, I would feel okay with Marcus Bryant going in at right tackle. I wouldn't feel great about it, but I'd feel
I would
okay.
I feel better about him going in than I have felt about most third tackles for the Patriots
Yes,
the last
correct, for a
couple
long time. And outside of him, like if anyone in the interior goes down, I don't know what we're gonna do. Like if Mike Onwenu goes out, what are we gonna do?
And Mike Onwenu has not been
No,
great.
but he's been decently
But he's been,
consistent, right? And so like that's where it's like the depth, the interior depth is just tough. And again, I think one of the things that Kyle Duggar has done, who by the way is not in the game anymore, but one of the things that Kyle Duggar has done is proven that he can still play. And I think that even if it doesn't fit here in New England, that's a good thing for the Patriots because they can actually get something in return for him if they want to move on from him. Now, maybe they decide to keep him, but if they decide to move on from him, they might be able to get something for him. And, you know, maybe it's not much, but maybe they get maybe they get some depth at the interior. You know what I mean?
Roman Anthony 2-run home run.
Let's go.
Top of the ninth with 2 outs to make it a 3-run game.
The greatest player that's ever lived. He's so damn good. It's unbelievable how good he is.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Nice tackle.
I will go on to the other side of this real quick. I will say I thought Jackson Dart looked impressive tonight. Nothing crazy, but like checking the basic boxes.
Right.
So credit to him. Holding the ball a little bit long. I expected that, but given his like profile coming in, I think he's making the jump to where I thought he would be year one, and then it's does he get past that?
Yeah.
Which no one knows until it's real games. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's just not good. Jordan Polk, not good. But it's just the Jackson Dart thing is interesting. The Giants confuse me because they signed Winston, then they signed Russell Wilson, then they drafted Jackson Dart. And I'm like, why'd you do all 3 of those things? And they didn't do what the Falcons did and pay either of those guys a ton of money. But still, it's kind of like weird isn't that kind of weird?
I think they did the 2 QB signings just so they would have options if they couldn't draft a quarterback. And also, you have to sign those guys, a month and a half before the draft?
That's true.
So you're still doing due diligence on even if you want to draft someone in this class. So that gives you some wiggle room there. I will also say it gives you more wiggle room because you look at this Giants schedule, they might not be favored in like a single game.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
It's bad. And this gives you like if Dart is just not ready, and I have said on here that I'm generally a proponent of just playing quarterbacks and having them learn on the field. Dart to me is a little bit of an outlier from that, given the system he's coming from, and it wouldn't shock me if he does need a year on the bench and then you play him. And if that's the case and you want to protect him, having 2 veterans makes sense because you play a tough schedule. Fans are probably going to want a QB change at one point, and someone could get hurt. And this gives you an option to have someone who is a top 45 quarterback in the NFL under center for you. So you can have a somewhat respectable team out there while Dart's developing.
Right. And I agree with you. Like that's kind of, I think it makes sense. I think Dart has some traits that are high level traits. Oh my Lord, dude. Tommy Cutlets.
We're getting that. Wait, Marty Mapu's back out there?
He is, yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it's just not. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Well, I think both of us have players on the field in this game that are guys who we have liked and have wanted to make this roster. And for me, at least, I can feel my love affair is not the right word, but that kind of soft feeling for these guys just going away.
Yeah.
Like I love Mapu. I really like that pick at the time. If they don't think he's worth it after this, all right. man.
Right.
If you wanted it, you could have earned it better.
Yep.
The opportunity was there.
Yeah, I agree. Kobe Matter almost just made a great. That would have been an exceptional play. Close. That would have been an exceptional play. The problem is the linebackers just can't. Cam Riley's so bad, like so bad. He just can't play. So it's like there are guys running to the seams just wide open. He's just like, okay, I guess we just won't cover that guy. It's fine.
Can I have an NFL complaint here?
Oh my Lord! Christ, Jordan Poole, get out of here. Go ahead.
I think the new measurement system is insanely dumb on like a number of fronts. The single biggest problem with measurements in the NFL is that you're asking refs to spot it by eye based on where they think the ball went down. And based on that standard, they do an amazing job at it.
Right.
Like they are way better at that than like umpires are at balls and strikes. They are so good at spotting the football for what the human eye can do in that environment. The chains are fine. They're accurate and they're a little whimsical. And there's suspense there of like, okay, we're going to bring this out and we're going to watch and we're going to see a physical thing to determine who gets to keep this football. Like, that's fun. What the NFL has done is not fix the original problem, which is trying to be more accurate at spotting the football, and replace the whimsical measurement system with something that seems to take longer, has no dramatic effect whatsoever. It's just worse from an entertainment perspective, and it doesn't help your accuracy.
It's literally, there is no problem with the chain game. None. The chains are fine. There's no problem. You invented a problem to try to fix it. And again, I'm going to go back to this because I think that it's true. I think that the NFL is too goddamn cheap. And they don't want, and I think that, and someone kind of said this too, and I think, I don't want to say they want to put their thumb on the scale at times, but they might want to put their thumb on the scale a little bit at times to say, you know what? We think this game should turn out this way. And so one kind of bad spot here, one kind of bad spot there, and one game goes this way and the other game goes that way. And, if we put a chip in the ball, and I think the biggest thing with putting a chip in the ball is that if you do that, how do you determine when your forward progress is stopped? How do you determine when you step out of bounds? None of those things are determined.
How do you determine when the player is down? That's right. It's not, in theory, it is not hard to have a system where you say, okay, we're going to have a chip that's going to tell us where the football is, and we're going to match that with a video that's going to tell us when the player is down.
Right.
The problem is what you're doing then is video replay to determine the spot of every single play in the NFL.
Which is stupid.
That's not worth it.
And
I honestly think the unless you're able to basically 3D map the entire thing in live time and specifically be able to tell where body parts are to create an automated system to know exactly when players are down.
Right.
But then what you have to do is this: you have to create a system that does that, alerts the refs to it in real time, and then the ref still has to actually place the football on that specific part of the field and match it to what they were saying. And then that's under you might be able to create a system that can do that for 98% of NFL plays. But think about all the plays that are in a pile where you just don't get a quite clear angle on exactly where it happens.
Right.
And given that that's how the sport is, I think the quick and dirty estimate that refs do on the field to say, we think that's where it went, go play, is probably the best combination of accuracy and entertainment value that they're going to get right now.
Right.
Unfortunately.
No, it's true. It's true. And James says it's the Phantom Menace blue screen solution. I mean, which is true. And the fact that it doesn't address the thing that's needed and it removes the charm to it as well. And that's it makes no sense. It's the exact same system. They're doing the exact same thing, except instead of bringing the chains out, they're putting a graphic on the screen, which by the way looks like like the graphic is horrendous.
It
It's
looks like what you'd see in like Madden 2005. Like
It's just like, what are we doing, guys? Like, what? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
yeah. You need a little
But
more.
by the way, they
But if
said
it
they're
makes you feel
adding.
better, makes you feel better, Pat. They are cracking down more on celebrations this
Yeah,
season.
it's so stupid, dude. It's so stupid. They're adding a dozen. Allegedly, they're adding a dozen 4K cameras to try to help with end zone and sideline and things like that, which is helpful. But again, like this is years in the making. I made the joke online that Belichick said, that they must have held a car wash because, and it's just like you're making billions of dollars. You can't like just do that. Like I just think the NFL is so damn cheap. Like it should have happened 10 years ago.
Well, that's not like cameras are expensive, but they're not that expensive. You
Correct.
could do this whenever you wanted. So, like,
Right.
yeah, I don't. Right. Weird that it wasn't a priority item before this. I don't know. Well, I will say this. I think the single biggest thing you could do to kind of quote unquote fix the officiating in the NFL, especially with so many camera angles on the game, is just put a ref upstairs who has access to all of the camera angles and who can basically at any point say, hey, we got to stop this for 30 seconds so I can look at something and we can get it right. And then you just make sure there's some kind of a time limit on that so that it's, we're not taking 2 minutes to correct things that are small. But that also ensures that, just from a quality and appearance perspective here for the league, you're going to have someone with an officiating power who's going to be seeing something similar or identical to what the fans are getting at home, who has the power to react to that and make sure that, generally speaking, if fans are seeing something and thinking, man, they should have gotten that call correct, you're just getting that call correct in the process. Right. And hopefully you can do this in a way that's mostly seamless and allows the game to go on. And then also you probably don't need challenges if that's the case. And like we can try to make this as seamless as possible.
More streamlined. I feel like there was something in the Bills-Chiefs game where there was a close call and they got it wrong. And I forget exactly what it is. But anyways, all right, let's get out of here. Before we do, do you think that anyone played themselves off the roster tonight? Now, listen, we know City So sucked, and maybe the answer is Cole Strange, but like City So wasn't making the roster, so it doesn't matter that he sucked tonight.
I don't think anyone played their way off. I think a lot of guys who were probably already off cemented that status. Basically, all of the offensive linemen, I think, are in that camp.
Yeah.
Caden Wallace to me is someone who I'm going to watch the tape. I think he's probably the most interesting guy here, but I'm not going to really be able to answer that until we look at the tape.
Yeah.
If there's a guy who may have played his way on, maybe it's Kyle Duggar, seeing enough from him that they want to put him on the roster. The wild card for playing his way on would be Jeremiah Webb. If they're like, yeah, we saw enough, we want him on. We thought he played well, and that wouldn't. It's like a 15% chance, I'd say, if something like that happening. That's what I got. What about you?
I don't really have anyone. Cole Strange, maybe. Maybe they just say, forget it. Like, we've had enough. Like, we're just not doing this. You might have made the roster, but forget it. Like, we're all set. And Andy Borregales, I think, there's a chance that they looked at it and just said, man, like, we can't do it. Sorry, kid. It's going to Romo, and that's how we're going to feel more comfortable with. And so, and James mentions Wooldridge, but he wasn't making the roster anyways. And maybe there's a chance that Wooldridge played himself off the practice squad with this performance, but he certainly wasn't making the roster anyways. So, I don't know. I also don't know if anyone played themselves onto the roster. I will say if the only way Javon Baker could make the team was through special teams, I think that he has an argument for getting on the roster just from a special teams perspective. He had he had that really nice play as a gunner. He forced a penalty earlier where he was out of bounds trying to come back in, and they it was a penalty on him on the Giants. And so, I think that he played well on special teams. Certainly didn't play well at wide receiver. But again, if the only path was special teams anyways, I think that he may have helped himself tonight.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think Javon Baker, the wide receiver, played his way off the roster, and Javon Baker, the special teamer, may have played his way on.
Right.
And
Right.
where the team views the balance of those things determines if he actually makes it.
Right. I mean, if he's your 7th wide receiver, what are the odds that your 7th wide receiver is going to play at all? You know what I mean?
We're talking 7th receiver versus 3rd tight end versus
Right.
5th linebacker, 6th safety. Like that. We will say tight end is the spot where we've been waiting all camp for someone to break out, and no one has. I think Westover is going to get that tight end fullback spot by default,
just because he's looked best at fullback. Yeah.
Yeah, but like no one there has looked great. I will say, I feel like every running back that they've brought in has played well. So I wonder if we see a couple of those guys stick around. Hasty might end up making the roster because he has special teams value as well, and I think he's looked good. Number 30 at running back, whose name is escaping me. I think
Shane Watts, right? Shane Watts.
Yeah, he's had some moments.
Yeah.
So and now we wait, and I think the real here's all right. Over under 52.5 for players on the active roster when we get to 4 p.m. on Tuesday or whatever.
I think over. I'm taking over. I think they're going to keep 53, and then they might end up trimming if they have to like pick someone up. You know, depending on who gets dropped, they might drop a few people. But I think that I think they're going to keep 53.
Okay, then let me phrase it differently then. Over under, we'll say 0.5 then, because it's the same. Players on the week 1 roster who are not on the roster at 4 o'clock on Tuesday.
I would say over.
Yeah, I would as well.
Yeah, I would say over.
Yeah, I think I might take the over on 1.5 too. I think they might pick up a couple guys off waivers or make a couple trades. Do something
and that could be a situation where 4 o'clock on Tuesday there's 2 new guys on the roster because they traded for some guys, right? But your general point is essentially that they're not going to keep the same guys they have right now.
They're looking at. I think they're going to look at this group of 90 men and say there's not 53 guys we want to go into week 1 with.
Right. Yeah. And I think that would be. I think that'd be pretty fair. Again, the interior offensive line depth stinks. The depth at cornerback stinks. The depth at linebacker stinks. There's a lot of depth that you're looking at saying like, man, this is not good. Even I like Marcus Bryant, but like Vidarian Lowe, I don't love Vidarian Lowe at tackle. So like maybe they pick up another tackle, and certainly don't like DeMontre Jacobs. So.
I think Lowe's fine for like a 4th tackle, but he's someone who will be on the roster until they think someone better comes along, which could happen literally any single day.
Yeah.
Who does look good though is the Boston Red Sox who won. So shout out Sox.
That's right, baby. Dude, I don't know what Dexter Lawrence is doing on the broadcast right here, but I'm not really sure what's going on.
We want to call it a show here.
Yep, I'd say it's called a show. We're gonna be back. I think Sunday night. Anyways, we'll be back at some point, either Sunday night or Monday night, talking about doing a roster projection, and then we'll be back Tuesday night going over the 53-man roster. And then we'll go from there. That's it.
And then it gets real.
Then it gets real, and it's football, man. So
yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the game. Hope we made the game a little bit more enjoyable for you because, my God, was it a snooze. So thanks for coming out. Be good to each other, and go Pats.